Our next presenter is Catherine McLaughlin. Catherine McLaughlin is a natural resources specialist with the Texas Optimization Program response team in the Emergency Preparedness Response section. She received her Bachelor of Science in Environmental Science from the University of Texas at Austin through the Jackson School of Geosciences. Catherine started with the TCEQ in 2016 as an environmental investigator in the TCEQ Beaumont region. She joined the Texas Optimization Program response team in 2018 and currently serves as the Cross Connection Control Program Coordinator, assisting in water systems with implementing cross connection control programs, refining existing backflow prevention programs, and responding to emergency events, all in effort to protect public health. Please welcome Catherine McLaughlin.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I was about to say morning, I promise you. So I appreciate the introduction. If you missed it, my name is Catherine McLaughlin with the TCEQ's Water Supply Division. I am the Cross Connection Control Program Coordinator, so you got a backflow question, I got a backflow answer, probably. I'm your main contact, so if there's anything going on in the backflow world, I want to know about it, I want to hear from you. So to talk about communication. So this is not going to be a rules-heavy presentation. This is there were some great presentations at the American Backflow Prevention Association meeting this past year in May. I wanted to share a lot of that information because this isn't something that TCEQ regulates, but it's still really important that we reach out to customers and get this information that we find so important to them, understanding and, well, eventually kind of getting on board with our CrossCom program. So this is going to be all about communication. So we're going to start with some essential information first. We'll talk about some of the things that if you were in the previous presentation, Ron had already talked about. So a couple of definitions, some vital regulations. So again, we're going to have one regulation that we're going to talk about, don't worry. And also we're also going to dive deep into an example that I found online of what I thought was a pretty decent ordinance. So we'll talk about that. Then we'll talk about some of the friction points that we run into dealing with customers and maybe some strategies and ways to approach a lot of these common issues that we run into. And then finally, we'll do some takeaway and some resources to provide you with additional tools and actually going out and teaching people about this stuff. So it does say that the audience is program administrators and customer-facing staff, but let's be real here, that's all of us. If you're a backflow tester, you're getting on site and you're testing and talking to that homeowner. If you're a customer service inspector, you're getting on site, you're inspecting that property and talking with the homeowner. So that's everybody here, I think, can benefit. So yeah, so first let's start with some essential information. So I'll go through quickly. This is just, it's information that, yes, it's going to be in our regulatory guidance documents and our rules, but with all that in mind, these are some important concepts that we want to end up communicating. So what is backflow? Water's going backwards. We don't want it to be going backwards. It is undesirable. At that point, we're potentially bringing in water and gases, other bits and things that are going to be gross to consume or potentially hazardous to our health. Won't dwell on that too long, but backflow happens in two major ways. Back siphonage, this is going to be our drop-in supply pressure to the point where we literally have a vacuum in our pipe and we're literally sucking, like I like to talk about, like sucking from a straw. You got your high pressure kind of in your coffee cup, and then you create a subatmospheric, you're sucking it up, and then boom, you got your coffee. So that's kind of how I like to talk about it with some folks. But this is going to be probably the most common type of backflow that you're going to run into. Because water always wants to go from like that high pressure, high energy situation to that low pressure, low energy situation. So we'll see that with some of our pictures here too. So back pressures are other form of backflow. This is going to be an elevation downstream pressure that will overcome our water supply, our main water supply. So the example up on top is going to be 80 psi is probably a little bit bigger than 60 psi if we remember from our math classes. So that 80 psi is going to push right back into our potable water supply that's trying to push back at 60 psi. So another good example, hot water heaters, boilers. Has anyone seen that Mythbusters episode? I feel like I'm dating myself by saying that, where they blow up the water heater. Yes, thank you. So with that, you know, that water, it wants to go somewhere, right? That water's getting hot. It wants to turn to steam. It's expanding. It's adding that pressure until it blows up. Now, of course, if we have things properly, attached and lined up, that hot water, it really wants to go into someone's house or out there, the pressure relief valve, or called correctly. So when that doesn't happen, then that's the explosion situation, but hopefully that won't happen. But another good example, soda machines. These are the bane of my existence, everyone. Getting into that, post-mix carbonators, those are going to be the units within soda machines themselves that produce up to 150, 200 PSI, so you can squeeze in all those little bubbles into your soda. But without any protection, that 150 PSI might go past our whatever supply pressure we're going to have, unless your water system is supplying 150 PSI to your customers, in which case that's very impressive. But with that, that's probably going to overcome our 50 PSI or 60 PSI and typical distribution pressures. Okay, I won't dwell on this too long, but we have two things that we're worried about when it comes to things getting in our system. We have health hazards. These things are going to get you sick, they're going to cause illness, or there's going to be high probability of such results. These are going to be referred to in the rules as contaminants. A couple examples, I'll tell you, hospitals are full of all types of fluids, bodily and non-bodily. Absolutely gross. We want to ensure those don't get into anybody, potentially vulnerable populations there. Slaughterhouses, when I lived in East Texas, oh my goodness, that turned me into a vegetarian very quickly. We don't want to be consuming any bits and animal viscera that come in our way, if we can possibly avoid it, of course. Also chemical plants, if you're not allowed access to these places, or we can confirm that this is dangerous material, we're looking at a health hazard and would require the appropriate protection. Non-health hazards don't sound as serious, but very, very common. This isn't going to get you sick. It's not going to kill you. It's not going to have a high probability of doing such a thing, but it will be aesthetically objectionable. So I'll tell you, the TCEQ office is next to 3 or 4 microbreweries. If we were to have some particular backflow cases, in that case, I don't mind beer in my water, but that would be aesthetically objectionable to some people. A couple other examples, you'll run into things like coffee machines. You see those ones hooked up to the wall at car dealerships or something. Certain irrigation systems, big asterisk right there, and things like shampoo basins. Those are really easy to overlook. Sometimes they have that built-in atmospheric vacuum breaker, sometimes they don't. They need an air gap, and we will see these types of things referred to in our regulations as pollutants. So local authority, we need a local authority document of some sort, right? So this could be an ordinance, this can be regulations, this can be a service agreement, this could be even, I've seen people squeeze their backflow rules into their tariffs. And they need to have, at the very least, provisions for proper enforcement to ensure that neither cross-connections nor other unacceptable plumbing practices are permitted. So no illegal lead materials, no directly hooking up to sewer if without any appropriate air gaps or protections, those types of things. In short, they do need these elements. They need an enforcement clause. That's the big thing that we're really worried about. If you got a customer who's not complying and say, directly connecting their sewer to their potable water line for whatever reason, we got to say, okay, no, we can't do that. We need some form of protection here. And that could be fines, fees, whatever kind of works to get people in compliance. Lead restrictions, I know that you might see that typically on a lot of older homes and things, but you're also going to... It's still out there. It's still being sold. You can still buy this stuff on Amazon. Whether or not it's the correct solder, it's not, to use for drinking water. That is to be debated. We've had situations where literally there was a failed lead test at a newly built home, I think in 2022. They had to tear out all the pipes and do it all over again. So this stuff is out there. And also unacceptable plumbing practices, creating those cross connections that are unprotected, things like that. So, but I want you to think about, so for enforcement, this isn't going to be a one-size-fits-all type of thing for anybody when it comes to communicating and getting enforcement things. What's going to work in a little district is not going to work in our major city, right? But what are some of the things that are most convincing in your types of authority documents? Do you have a series of letters that goes out to notify, hey, y'all need to start doing this, and you need to start getting your backflow tested, whatever? Are there fines that are involved? Are they, a drop in the bucket? Or are they big, hefty fines that no one wants to deal with? Or are we looking at service interruptions? At some point, are you going to suspend service because it's no longer safe for you to supply water to that location? So I know a lot of things we get sometimes, people say, oh yeah, this is what's in plumbing code. Well, that's great. I'm glad you've adopted a plumbing code. Excellent. This isn't the only thing you can rely on, because this doesn't have any enforcement capabilities. It says you gotta get your backflows tested, this, that, and the other. These are some types of backflow preventers on top of TCEQ's requirements. But again, no enforcement. It's just a great reference document with some great rules, but we got to do something about it once we're out there in our system. So what are some of the things that make regulations stronger? Right of entry. If you can't get on site to do any customer service inspections, can't read the meter, can't actually get that backflow tested, then what's your point? So definitely something to include. We'll take a look at that example document here in a second with a good example of that. This is an opportunity for you to tailor your requirements to a system. I know a lot of folks on the Gulf Coast, you're probably dealing with chemical plants. That's probably folks in the minority, but they're out there. How would you want to address those? Get more frequent CSIs done? Would you want to have a listing of different fines for them? This is the opportunity to be, address how your system works. Some of these can be stricter than TCEQ. The big limit is affected utilities is defined by the PUC. I'm not going to get into that. That's typically investor-owned utilities. And another good example of kind of being stricter, too, in those cases is adding in due dates. So this is a weird situation. Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 290, our drinking water rules, tell you that, okay, you need to get the backflow tested. Turn it into the water supplier. That's it. Now, our irrigation rules say that, okay, once you get the backflow tested, good job. Submit it to the water purveyor. Do it within 10 days. There's a little bit of a shortcoming with TCEQ regulations that you can use this opportunity to bridge that gap and stop folks from mailing in backflow tests 2-3 months late, because we have run into folks that ended up doing that. So we're going to do our little deep dive, and can everybody read this? Because I certainly cannot. I got notes here, so we can reference these. So I just want to kind of go over some of the things that I really liked about this ordinance. There's still a few shortcomings. This isn't perfect. If you recognize this ordinance as yours, please see me after class. I have lots of comments for you. So we know they're specifically outlining different places of authority in their authority document. So we have, this is the authority and the responsibility of the Public Utilities Director. This is the water supply's responsibilities as a whole, right? And a couple different things they specifically say that, hey, we are the ones who are making that determination for what makes adequate backflow prevention. You'll see that in capital B right there. To ensure protection in individual cases, the director may assess the degree of hazard of what's going on in the water system, and you may install types of backflow at each different point that may be required. Okay. Certified testing. If anyone's going to be tested in our system, they need to be certified. D, great situation. They specify a third-party vendor that, hey, once you get your backflow tested, don't just send it to them, drop it off in my office. We have these guys that specifically handle all of these things, and they get referenced back a couple of times. Testing by city personnel. So if you see E, you'll see testing by city personnel. This is basically their QA/QC program. They're going to go out there following a backflow test from maybe a tester that they're suspecting something from, if maybe he's pencil whipping or something. They can go out there and actually retest and have follow-up actions with that. In addition to that, they also have the authority and the ability to actually terminate service. So, of course, that's, for the most part, a gimme to protect your, your water system and your distribution system. But that being said, that gives them the specific right. So, in the second half, we have now, okay, that's all the water. This is the responsibilities of the customers. The customers, you can't just sit there and say, oh, man, you just want to protect things that you find important. I don't think they're important. Not quite. A specifically lists the duty that, hey, customers, you guys got to be aware of this. You guys got to do some protection. Let's see. This duty begins at the point of delivery, includes the customer's entire internal water system. Each customer has the duty to prevent contaminants from entering the system, so they can't go out willy-nilly and making, potentially hazardous connections on purpose or on accident, what have you. So B also says, okay, customers, we need the consent to allow access and survey your property for cross connections or illegal lead materials, et cetera, et cetera. As a condition of receiving water service, you allow city personnel to go on site during normal business hours to actually go and inspect things. If a customer refuses access, they can cut off your water service. So really kind of clearly explains hey, this is what we're expecting you to do whenever we have folks out there. Customer responsibilities. So part of these responsibilities, there's 3 little parts. So once there is maybe an inspection done, a backflow test, a backflow prevention assembly needs to be installed. something like that, we're going to go ahead and, okay, you guys got to pay for it. You're the one who's going to have to make sure that the report gets submitted. You're the ones who's going to need to initiate testing and get that tested. We're not going to do it for you. Installation, repair, and maintenance. Each customer, when contracting for installation, repair, and maintenance of a backflow prevention assembly, shall employ a person who's permitted. You need to use someone, you can't just use Joe Schmo off the street who has a test gauge for some reason. You got to use someone who's appropriately licensed and permitted. It also involves the involvement of permitting. So it's like, oh, well, you know, if I'm going to do something with my backflow that isn't just testing it and maintaining it, if they got to move it, they got to have the appropriate people and appropriate permits to do so. So this is just a little in summary. So we know that PWS is responsible for determining hazards, getting folks out there, looking at them, doing QA/QC on the testers that are working in their system, keeping that third-party record-keeping service active, terminating water service if there's a hazard that ends up getting discovered. The customer themselves are responsible for helping prevent contamination. It takes two to tango. It's not just the water supplier that's bearing all this burden. It's the folks out there who are using our water. Allowing city staff on site for a customer service inspection, that right of entry is a very important thing to have. Paying for the assembly and the testing, that's all kind of sits in on the, again, if we looked at that, the customer who's responsible for that, and getting a properly licensed person and filing a permit. That's what y'all got to do as per our ordinance, so please do so. Another part of the ordinance, so this is all about backflow prevention assembly testers. We say that, okay, so if you're going to work in our system, you need to register with us. Each person qualified to perform services as a certified tester for the city shall register with our third-party vendor, whoever that may be. Testing equipment, if you have equipment that you're testing with, which you need equipment to test with, your testing gauge, for example, that information needs to be submitted to that third-party record-keeping or that third-party vendor for them to maintain and verify if that stuff is accurate and appropriate to use. Accountability of the tester, let's see. We'll look at the second half of the rule. That's the good part. We won't talk about the top part. But certified testers shall allow that backflow prevention assemblies comply with the specifications in USC's 10th edition manual. So not only do you have to sign up with the city, you got to make sure you're doing it to what is ultimately the state requirements. We'll ignore the first part of the rule, which says works done for persons under the direction or control of the tester, because only a backflow tester can fill out their own form. Again, if you recognize this, see me after class. Also, in addition, so if a tester is out there, they do their test and they can't immediately repair it. Maybe the supply store is closed, can't run to Home Depot and grab a little something that you need to repair. They need to tell the water system right away. This document, it seems to me, I'm not a lawyer, it seems that they give authority to the backflow tester to actually shut the water off, turn off the portion of the customer system, which is a big no-no. Again, see me after class with that. So keep in mind that it's okay, we needed to, but the big takeaway part for that is we need to tell the system as soon as possible that something's wrong here. Okay, backflow prevention assembly installation and maintenance, talking about permits that are required. There needs to be a permit and there needs to be inspection whenever we're dealing with this kind of stuff. So in summary, you got to register, you got to notify the system ASAP that there's something wrong with the backflow and you can't repair it, and customers need to deal with those permitting requirements that we talked about earlier and in here. So exceptions, they have a whole section on exceptions. So, okay, if there is maybe something that, okay, hey, CSI came out here, third-party guy I don't think that was very accurate, you can reach out to the water system and say, hey, okay, do a CSI, maybe determine whether or not I still need any backflow prevention. So they have the ability to do that, and have actual, city staff do that. Highly detrimental hazards. Okay, if there's a bunch of hazards within this site, you can protect from backflow and those particular hazards by putting them at each individual branch of the hazard, not necessarily each individual use. So, okay, that gives you a little ability with where you can put these things. Landscape irrigation. So certain irrigation systems are considered health hazards per Texas Administrative Code. So with that, we're seeing that, backflow preventers, they need to be upgraded when backflow preventers need repair, replacement, testing, et cetera, and bring it up to, this specifically refers to the on-site sewage facility rule that we have in 34451D. So they're saying we're not even going to bother with even thinking about grandfathering. So you need to get that guy tested, you need to get it upgraded. Penalty and disconnection. Okay, here's where we have our enforcement clause, right? Here's the big chunk of it. Person who violates or causes the permits, the violation of, or any provision of this subchapter commits a Class C misdemeanor and a fine of up to $2,000. Oh my God, that's a lot of money. Would you consider that an effective deterrent for backflow noncompliance? Something to think about. So, and in summary, we have these conditions that are specified here. So I thought that was a really good example, but we'll go on and talk about some of the friction points that we might have with customers and folks out abroad, and as well as some strategies to kind of approach folks and actually, kind of get a little more buy-in than, here, read this TCEQ website. So raise your hand. Audience participation. I've lived here for 20 years. Why do I need this now? Okay, all right. Oh no, I don't have any hazards here. There is an infinitesimal chance of backflow actually happening. Oh, but you didn't tell me that I needed this. No thanks, no, I don't need any backflow prevention. I'm grandfathered in. Everyone should raise their hands. I get these every day. It's like, oh, but my house was built in the 60s. Well, I'm sorry, But that's why we have some answers ready to go and prepared. So, cross connections, these hazards are always going to be an issue. It doesn't matter how old your house is. Like, an irrigation system built in, the 1990s is going to be just as dangerous as the one that your neighbor's installing right now. So we're still looking at these the same way with all these different hazards. Customer service inspections, okay, you don't have anything on site, that's great, Let's just get a customer service inspector to get that official snapshot, have a licensed guy, verify that, okay, there is nothing here. We won't bother you for another 10 years until we suspect a hazard at this site, or you have a permit filed where you need to expand something. So the infinitesimal chance of backflow happening, is that really a risk you're willing to take? Look, this is your family. This is your community. Do you want to drink your neighbor's irrigation water? I don't think so. But, oh, you didn't need to tell me this? Well, we have a couple of different communication methods, and this is where we're going to talk a little bit about things like websites and letters and things, but this is what are the main ways we're trying to reach out, like to show that we are actually trying to reach and get folks, on board. And I'm grandfathered in. I'm sorry, there's no grandfathering clause with the TCEQ for backflow as far as I'm aware, and I've been here a couple of years. It is a public health issue. It's going to require upkeep. It's just, I hate to say it is what it is, but hazards are still hazards. Doesn't matter if that irrigation system was installed whenever. It's still, we view it as this kind of hazard now. So also, customers have that kind of a false sense of security, right? I never hear about backflow. I only hear about it in the news when it's terrible, and I see it on ABC on the national news for whatever reason. So they don't really happen that much, right? Recorded backflow events are very, very uncommon. You're looking at, it's not always going to be your big methyl ethyl death facilities getting into the potable water supply like this example from the Texas Tribune. You're looking at just your pool water coming from your neighbor's house, getting siphoned back into through a broken atmospheric vacuum breaker, perhaps that was installed a long, long time ago and never looked at again. Actually getting into the system, and then you have really chlorinated water, and it's like, oh, it's probably nothing. It's probably just the water supply. Is it really? So also, backflow events, we're talking about health hazards and non-health hazards. Backflow events, they only happen with dangerous chemicals, right? Things like firefighting foams, there's suds in my water, that's really strange. Irrigation systems, those things always have a little backflow preventer on them. There's direct connections to sewers, right? No, of course not. You're looking at things that, again, things that aren't gonna get you sick, but like with that pool water, that's gonna taste really funny. Or for other types of things, you go and go to the TCQ office, get some water, and microbrewery backflowed when we weren't thinking about it, and says, oh man, this water tastes really good. Sorry, really strange. So, so a couple of other friction points. Cross connections are just affordable. They are convenient. It's great to have them, of course, in certain cases. So these things are absolutely everywhere. Those little Miracle-Gro, those little hose attachment things, they don't just do Miracle-Gro, they also do pesticides. Not necessarily that company, but these are other things that could potentially pose a hazard to your system. You're not gonna get any support from manufacturers, generally speaking. I remember when the pandemic started back in the olden times, I emailed a bidet company and I'm like, hey, how are you supposed to install these things? And they say, oh yeah, you're supposed to install per plumbing code. What does that mean? Please tell me, does that mean it needs an RP? Does it need an air gap? They don't know. They're not going to provide that information to you. So you're also looking at bad installs too, from potentially unlicensed people. If you hire, say, something like a unlicensed irrigator, which please don't do that, or even a licensed person. This is a picture from my house. This is our water softener with the drain line sitting in the pipe right there. I paid $900 for a cross connection on a health hazard, and I still need to fix it. Thanks for reminding me. But backflow prevention assemblies, okay, you need to get something installed. These things are expensive. I'm not going to sit here and say you need a backflow, you need a backflow, you need a backflow, because I'm just telling you to get a large bill accruing, right? But you can kind of take a step back and with it, okay, you need a backflow, but what's going to be the best type of thing for a situation? If there's going to be no back pressure, right? Do we really need the RP for that health hazard, or can we get away with a PVB? But kind of to combat some of this stuff is that we just want to do our best to educate customers as best as we can. We don't want them accidentally hiring an illegal irrigation company, fly-by-night industries, on potentially hazardous products. That's because then they're going to have to go back and go ahead and fix that stuff and actually go ahead and, well, okay, now you're not paying for one irrigation system, you're paying for two. This is all in an effort to prevent unscrupulous installers. All these fly-by-night industries, we don't want to let them get away with violating our regulations and putting our customers and our water supply at risk. Ultimately, the PWS needs to make the determination on what's needed. One of the bad examples in our sample ordinance that we're looking at earlier was that they gave the authority for the backflow tester to shut the water off. That's not really within their license capabilities. Instead, we can see, and especially in the example where we have the water softener drain line sitting in the sewer line, not everybody is as educated as we are and have to be. Not all plumbers are going to know our 290 rules. And so ultimately, you as the water system are responsible for protecting your water system. Another good example I really like, this was following a backflow event from a few years ago. This water system just started handing out hose-bib vacuum breakers. I mean, these things are what, $8, $10 at the departments, or the hardware store, I should say. I'm not saying you need to go out and buy 100 of these and start handing them out, but when we responded to a certain incident earlier this year about related to backflow and cross-connection control, there were irrigation systems, there were pools, really common stuff, but most houses didn't have any of that stuff. They just had unprotected hose bibs. For $20, they're back in compliance. Just slap one of those on in the front, in the back, and then you're done. Very common. So in addition to that, customers, there's a huge knowledge gap. Obviously, I don't have to tell y'all that customers don't know what goes into their water. There's a lot of testing, treatment. I'm preaching to the choir. Their exposure is going to be limited to water bills. If you were in this room earlier today when Jason Robinson was giving his example, he challenged you, go ask your customer, say, how much does a gallon of water cost? Well, my water bill says, I didn't ask about your water bill. I asked, how much does a gallon of water cost? So that knowledge is going to be limited to, okay, well, I'm paying $100 this month. How can we kind of bridge that gap? We always encourage bill stuffers. I end up throwing those away. I don't know about y'all. But hopefully there's some people that do end up reading those. But what other ways can we reach folks? Exposure to backflow is going to be negative. It's going to be those national news stories. It's going to be those costs that are being accrued. It's going to be like that scary letter that's like, oh my God, you're going to shut off my water? Well, if you read the whole thing, it didn't quite say that. But that's going to be kind of your kind of reaction that, oh my goodness, this is a big deal, being worried about it. So, okay, so negative. I wish that we could talk in how great our 290 rules are. I'm preaching to the choir that we're providing safe, potable drinking water. We're preventing cholera and all these other diseases. But the exposure that most customers are going to have, besides that water bill, is, okay, well, that's great and all. Where's my water? If there's a line break and a service interruption, people are just going to get mad, right? Boil water notices. Oh my goodness. I can't believe I have to boil my water again. Going back to Jason Robinson's presentation earlier today, talking about like, man, I got to answer all these calls and all these things. Christmas Day, it always happens on the holidays. So, it's not always a good situation. So letters, you can send as many letters as you'd like. There's the only letter that's going to be read, in my opinion, is going to be that final cutoff notice. It's not practical. You have to do your best, obviously, of course, to try to notify people, whether that be with letters, whatever. But it's really not practical to call thousands and thousands of customers potentially in your system. So this is a letter that came across our desk, or two letters that came across our desk a couple of weeks back that I really just wanted to talk about because there's some good examples of what to do and what not to do. So I'm going to start with the good stuff that I really enjoyed and thought was very beneficial for customers. So this water system wants to get customer service inspections done. That's great. We absolutely want that. We need them. We can see on the left letter. It's required on all new construction, all these other different reasons that reflect the 3 reasons that the TCEQ has, in addition to some from the water supplier. They have a specific link where, okay, this is when they're needed, go find someone to actually do it. Here's a resource where you can get someone from the district to actually do that. A customer service inspection certificate is provided by a licensed inspector. Okay, so you gotta get a licensed guide. Lucky you, we got a resource to find one of those. Now we have the final notice on the other side. We know it's final notice, nice and clear up front. They're doing a really good example of clearly stating who sent this, why this was sent, and when the due dates are. Due dates are kind of an important thing, so you don't end up waiting a couple of months for another inspection to happen. So this is some of the iffier things that I saw when I was reading through it. In order to determine you have something on file, you're telling the customer you actually gotta call and reach out. So, and that's kind of a problem we'll get into the messier things in a second, and you also have a couple examples that are outside of TCEQ's rules, which, okay, that's fine if they're supported locally in ordinance or in customer service agreement, that's totally fine to do the CSIs for those reasons. In addition, okay, again, if you already have something, there's kind of an exception in addition to the hard cutoff date that we're looking at with that. If you currently don't have something scheduled, please contact us for more information. Okay, but kind of putting the onus on the customer to find that information out. So here's kind of the iffier stuff, if you ask me. TCEQ and this district rules and regulations require all properties have something on file. That's not really true. I should clarify. That would be a local rule, kind of confusing. It's equating that TCEQ is requiring this when, remember, we regulate water suppliers regulate their customers. And then kind of another issue I kind of identified that customers need to track one of their regulatory guidance documents down for more information. And while I love our guidance documents, they're absolutely fantastic. I get bored after 2 pages. I don't know about y'all. TikTok has really ruined my attention span, so I'll say that. But with that, they're saying, okay, chase this information down, but it's not specific. Now, what's one thing that you don't notice here that I haven't mentioned at all? What is a customer service inspection? I have no idea what it is from these letters right here. I could look it up online. It's going to send me the TCEQ. They're telling me I need this. And I'm like, well, I didn't tell you. It's the water system who, hey, maybe we should inform them a little bit on why we want this. Not just because there's reasons, but because what are we even looking at? What are the things that we're worried about here? So, okay, we want to bridge that gap as best we can. We want to provide educational materials. There's a couple different things. We've talked about letters. We have that little 3-letter system of increasing urgency, our bill stuffers, even a website. What I should do for next year is I should bring up some of our CrossCon award winners and ask them what they do, because there's a lot of public outreach that they end up doing, which really puts them above and beyond what needs doing. And then also clarity and communication. I'll tell you, that letter did a great job identifying who do we need to contact, what are you actually asking for, or what is the action or result that you want to do. Obviously, that letter was like, we need these customer service inspections done. Great. When do I actually have needed done by? Again, great opportunity to talk about those due dates in that letter. When will the tester or inspector need access to? Now, we know for customer service inspections, we need to go inside the house, swab some stuff, look at some bathrooms, make sure everything's air-gapped correctly. For a backflow tester, I need to get in your backyard and test that guy next to your irrigation system. And why do I need to do this? Why do we care? Why should I care about what you want me to do, me as a customer? Then we can use that opportunity to explain, this is, we just want to make sure you're not accidentally drinking sewage water or whatever nasty things might be cross-connected. So other strategies, it also helps educate your staff, even those that aren't directly involved with the cross-connection control information. Even surface level knowledge is beneficial. We always encourage folks, even front desk folks say, you get a call, there's a complaint with foamy water, and it's like, well, there could be a couple of reasons there, but this could be indicative of a firefighting foam or a type of pesticide that has gone in the water. So maybe I could communicate that, get a little more information to provide on a work order for any follow-up. Terminology, keeping things consistent. A lot of people say we want to inspect our backflows. What does that mean? I don't think it means testing and maintenance. You know, do you want to test the backflow? Do you want to stare at the backflow longingly, or something like that? You know, we just want to keep the terminology and what we want to access and ask for, consistent. So again, communication, even within other departments. I know backflow is just weird. It doesn't always sit with utilities. Sometimes it sits with our plumbing guys. Sometimes it sits with our building guys. That might not necessarily, you know, maybe they're doing something and seeing other things that we should probably know about and our backflow guys should know about. So just talking to each other. So a couple of different resources and takeaways. What can help me communicate and what should I focus on? So a clear and effective authority document is absolutely essential. Don't leave any question on what you're supposed to be doing, what they're supposed to be doing, and you know what we need to do to protect our public health. So again, I thought that ordinance was a great example of customer expectations, talked about the responsibilities for the water system. Any grace periods, that customer service inspection letter was like, okay, you know, here's a weird exception that you might have run into. Here's where, if you work with us, we'll, you know, get this inspection done and, you know, not come down on you and fine you immediately or something like that. Is the enforcement actually effective, or is it just the cost of doing business? Does it make sense to charge, you know, I don't know, $50 a day for a massive chemical company for not testing their backflow prevention assemblies? Less so, you know, maybe that'd make more sense for a customer. So, you know, do these actually encourage people to get back into compliance? It is a joint responsibility. Like I said, it takes two to tango. So customers, they hear about all sorts of issues, PFAS, other those emerging contaminants, other those hot issues. But backflow, it's in the news and then it's gone. Backflow is definitely not one of them that we're hearing about and talking about. No one wants to be putting their lives at risk. We need to provide customers with the tools to actually understand why we do what we do. So that would be, you know, again, these customer service inspections are intended for protecting and preventing hazards and other cross connections. Backflow testing is, we want to make sure this backflow actually is doing its job. And we got to reduce the technobabble, I think is really important, and keep it understandable and easily digestible. So, you know, I could read what the definition of a hazard is until I'm blue in the face, and, you know, it's like, what did you just say? So we want to kind of reduce it, right? Backflow isn't the undesirable reversal of flow, bringing in contaminants and pollutants. No, backflow is water going backwards and bringing with it some nasty stuff that we do not want in our system. So I just want you to think in your own system, how are you reaching customers right now? What is working? And how can you, you know, from there, what can you do to actually reach out to them more? Are there some community events? Where do people gather where we can actually talk to people? If you like reading textbooks, the Manual of Cross-Connection Control 10th edition is an excellent resource with some, also has a lot of like operations guides to it when it comes to water systems, those example letters increasing in intensity to urge people to get their backflow tested and things. Gives also a list of backflow prevention assemblies that are approved by USC. Not necessary, but if you enjoy spreadsheets like I do, a great thing. I would highly recommend the recommended practice for backflow prevention and cross-connection control from AWWA, the M14 manual. This really goes into like operating a cross-connection control program. It goes into a lot of technicals too, don't get me wrong, but that is their bread and butter right there. Other resources, we have all of these. Let's see, I don't know about 345, but we have all of these available in the technical assistance room. There was a massive stack of GI 411s. This is our little bill stuffer that we have published. You can print it off on our website, or you can grab some of those for free. They got the nice glossy paper. But really good reference material for your program. From our partners online, last year, a gentleman with Jonah Hill Sud did an excellent job talking about dealing with difficult customers. I think that's on a playlist with a couple of other like customer-focused and backflow-focused things, so absolutely check that out. Also, a really good thing, I think, is this "What is Backflow and Why Should You Care?" little video. It's from a manufacturer. I'm not promoting them or anything, but they made a little 4-minute video of like, it's a goofy little advertisement where it's talking about what is backflow. This is what backflow is. That's important, and then kind of going from there. It's a good resource for sharing with customers. Finally, You have any comments or things, you're seeing things out in the field, we have our cross-sectional subcommittee meeting. You can attend virtually. You can find all the information on our website, but we're just meeting with industry professionals, training folks, other water systems, regulators as well. We're just there to talk about backflow issues, what's going on, and what's coming down the pipeline. But again, you can find more information online. Sign up for the notifications on the sign up for updates thing at the top. Finally, final thoughts. Progress is really slow. It takes a lot of work to actually implement these new things, keep them going, the whole thing. It takes a lot of effort and time and resources to actually get a program that really kind of runs well. There are mountains of materials to support you in your efforts. Take a look at those YouTube videos. Take a look at those documents. Like, we want to help as best we can. This is what our job is. There's not going to be a one-size-fits-all template. Again, what works in a big city ain't going to work in a little district. So I just want these to be some things to think about when you are approaching customers, talking to them, et cetera, et cetera. So thank y'all. I appreciate your patience. Again, thank you so much to some of the folks that I use as a resource here. Again, this is not a regulatory thing. I'm not telling you need to start hosting public meetings to talk about backflow, but I just want to give you some tools to think about them and that you're not alone in this. It's okay. We'll figure it out. So thank y'all so much. I appreciate it.